Try not to get scared. / Crime Reacts back at it again. Flight team stand up. Why You Lie is July. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I don't even know if this is gonna be scary or not. But, hey, we on Chillin' Scares. He never fails. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, hey, make his jump scare, whatever, bro. We got 4 most disturbing Reddit confessions posts. We back on the OG reacts. My bad, man. Your boy was sidetracked, man. College football 26 drop, man. You know how it be, man. It was the same thing last year, man. Ain't nothing to leave or none of the reacts, man. We really about to spam it up these next few days, man. All right, so be prepared. Hey, I ain't gonna lie. The last time we looked at the Chillin' Scares Reddit, it was something about like crimes, I guess, that was solved. And I ain't gonna lie, it ends up turning into like a big rabbit hole, man. It's just crazy how, you know what I'm saying, just like the site, just Reddit in general, is kind of just like, in a way, like, would it make sense? Nah, I ain't gonna lie, I really never been on the, like, you know what I'm saying, that other side of like the web myself, because I just don't really, to be honest, care. But in a way, like, Reddit really turned into a rabbit hole. Like, Reddit is filled with a whole bunch of, like, it could be a whole bunch of crazy things, educational things, helpful things, cringe things. Like, it's really like a big rabbit hole, I feel like, now that I'm just figuring it out. But, hey, man, let's check it out.
On May 8th, 2025, a Reddit user asked a grim yet straightforward question on r/AskReddit, stating, "What is the most messed up thing you have ever done?" Initially, replies to this were filled with either obvious jokes or relatively tame confessions involving relationship drama. However, after about 30 minutes of the post being live, one user replied with a disturbing comment that stood out from the rest. It read, "I ran over a woman and her child in California in '96. I don't remember the specific city, but I'll never forget it was the intersection between Vanowen Street and Lewis Avenue."
So you get on the internet and say this?
"I think the mom died, but I don't remember what happened to the kid. I got away scot-free, and I'm only telling this because the statute of limitations already passed."
Oh my gosh, nah, this person gotta go, bro. Nah, this person gotta go, dog. That is actually genuinely fucked up. Like, I don't know if you guys understand, like, I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna guess 98% of y'all are pretty educated, so you know what I'm saying. If you don't actually know this, and I know this, like, there's a problem. But all jokes aside, bro, they basically, first of all, he spelled statute of limitations wrong. Buddy need to go back to school. Bro, basically what that is that's basically like the limit to what, like, wherever, like, obviously it's in the U.S., so whatever, like, the U.S. and whatever state, because different states have different laws, basically allow for when they can actually try you on a crime. You know what I'm saying? Now, certain crimes, there's no statute of limitations. I believe like anything with like homicides, murder, there's no statute of limitations. Basically, that means they can come 70 years, 80 years later, and if they find out that there's enough evidence, they can get you for that crime. But I guess apparently for this, which is weird, I don't know how there would be a statute of limitation for, I mean, this is what, manslaughter or whatever. I'm pretty sure it was assuming it was an accident. But, bro, that's creep as fuck, bro. Like, you waited for the statute of limitation to pass, and you took your weird ass on the internet and said this behind a computer screen and somewhere in the middle of Reddit. This is weird. This is weirdo activity, bro.
Now, it's not
and prayers to the family and everything, too.
Common for people to just make up shocking stories on Reddit for attention.
That's true. They could be making it up, too. The internet does.
First, this didn't look any different until another user did some digging and discovered an LA Times article from July of 1996 about what seemed like the same incident mentioned in the comment.
What?
That article, along with others from the time, not only confirmed the OP's claims, but also revealed the horrifying details of what actually happened that day. According to the reports, the victims of this incident were a 19-year-old girl named Ruby Moreno and her 1-year-old daughter. Ruby had taken her daughter to a nearby hospital on the morning of July 29 to treat a few minor cuts she got while playing. She stopped at a relative's house on Vanowen Street on her way back and was about to return home at around 10 p.m. But as she was attempting to get into her car on the driver's side, she heard a loud screeching noise from behind. She looked back and saw a car barreling towards her at 100 miles per hour. According to other witnesses, this car had swerved to avoid hitting a van just seconds earlier, causing it to lose control. Seeing this, Ruby panicked and started running from the speeding car with her daughter still in her arms. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on her side that day. Before she could reach the sidewalk, she tripped into the street and was struck by the car moments later. The impact sent her flying over a parked car and onto the roof of another.
Oh my gosh.
The baby was also tossed several feet into the air before falling on the asphalt.
Oh my gosh.
Miraculously, the baby didn't receive any lethal injuries and was able to survive without any lasting damage to her body.
Wow.
Ruby, however, wasn't as fortunate. She was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to her injuries the same night. As for the driver that hit her, witnesses reported him trying to flee the scene, hitting another parked car and then a curb before successfully getting away. And from everything I could find, the perpetrator was never identified or arrested.
Wow.
So if this Reddit user was telling the truth, there's a real chance he was the driver behind the brutal hit and run nearly 3 decades ago. The report from 1996 also mentioned that the driver was likely intoxicated due to the way he behaved after hitting Ruby. And when asked, the user admitted that this was the case. Were you drunk at the time, as the article says, or were they wrong about that? Inebriated, sure. More high than drunk. I was on a lot of junk back there.
What?
But the most disturbing part of his
This dude is brave, bro.
confession was just how cold and remorseless he seemed about the entire incident. Why no sympathy? Was this on purpose? No, but it's been so long. It's like a whisper of a memory.
What?
Do you think about how that child has to live without a mother now? Genuinely asking, you seem stone cold. It's been 30 years. That child probably has children of its own. I seem stone cold because I've already been through all the stages of emotions. I've justified myself, I rotted with guilt, I've had sleepless nights. I'm an old man now and I'm waiting to die any moment. I can't change what I did. I can't even pay for my crime anymore because California doesn't send people to prison only on a confession, and regardless, my health alone would render me incompetent to stand trial. There's nothing tying me back to that day but my word.
See, Brown would sit up here and be like, "Buddy's just trolling just for attention," but he's literally being like specific as hell, bro. Like that's just weird, bro. Like,
which brings us to the
Sick,
big
man.
question: was the OP actually telling the truth? Unfortunately, the answer to this is a bit more complicated than it initially seems. For starters, his story does match an actual incident that happened back in 1996, right down to the exact intersection he mentioned in his confession. He also added several details that didn't seem made up, and even gave a reason for why he was finally willing to confess now, because the statute of limitations had long expired. That said, there also seems to be some potential inconsistencies. Some reports claim the driver was with another passenger, and that they actually fled on foot. However, the OP not only didn't mention any passenger, but also claimed that he still had the car. He even cited its damaged condition as the reason he became aware of the accident, writing, "What was your reaction to what happened? I was too hopped up on various types of drugs to notice. It was only the day after when I saw the dried blood on my bumper." This could point to the possibility that the OP wasn't behind Ruby's accident at all. He maybe stumbled upon the 1996 article online, memorized key details like the year and the street name to make it seem real, and then fabricated the rest of the story as users pressed him with more questions. All just to get some attention on the internet. But at the end of the day, we don't know. Although if he
what
was
is y'all guys calling that? Do you think he's telling the truth or he's flagging?
telling the truth, several users have already alerted California authorities of his comments.
Either way,
In
Buddy's
May of
an idiot.
2012, a Reddit user asked others to share a secret which, if came out, could ruin their lives. And while this post received over 44,000 comments in total, one chilling confession stood out above the rest. About 9 hours after the original post went up, a user replied with a haunting story of his own, reading, "I accidentally killed 7 people. I put a rag into a new water heater exhaust to keep debris out and installed it in a rental. I get a call a week later. There's been an accident. I show up and there's a ton of EMS and police. They ask me where the gas shutoff is, and I go down to shut the gas off and see the end of the rag I forgot sticking out of the top of the heater. Rip the rag out, shut the gas off, and headed upstairs, only to be told all the tenants were dead.
What?
I drink all day now and sleep. It's killing me from the inside every single day, but if I say anything, my family is ruined. We have a bunch of rental properties and we'd be shut down." This reply caught the attention of
that's
thousands of
wild.
other
That's
users who
wild.
wanted more details on what exactly happened. Unfortunately for them, the account that posted this was a throwaway, and the OP didn't post a single comment after that, possibly to avoid incriminating himself any further. But when users didn't get the answers they were looking for from the OP, they began looking outward, and it didn't take long for someone to track down the news article talking about the tragic accident. According to these reports, the incident took place on December 16, 2006, in Kirksville, Missouri, where 7 victims, including 5 young adults and 2 children, passed away in their sleep due to carbon monoxide poisoning. However, while this part matched what the OP said in his comment, the conclusion the investigators reached was completely different. In his report, the police chief superheading the investigation stated that the heating system was functioning properly and was not the source of any problem. Instead, one of the victims' vans was left running in the closed garage. This generated a lot of carbon monoxide throughout the night, which slowly filled up the apartment and eventually ended up taking the resident's life. So, did the OP really get away with killing 7 innocent people because of his gross negligence? Sadly, the answer is not as clear-cut as many would hope. There are multiple possibilities, and any one of them could be true. We can even take this a step further and assume that the OP wasn't even the landlord and just read about the incident online. That all said, it's still completely possible this story is legit and that the rag was the cause of the deaths, or perhaps a combination of the van and the rag. The OP hasn't posted any new updates on his throwaway account in the last 13 years, so whatever the truth is, we may never know for sure.
Hey man, what do y'all think?
On May 2nd, 2017, users on the Canada News subreddit came across a lengthy post titled, "Wanted for Kitchener Murder, My Side." This was a reference to a horrific murder that took place in Kitchener, Canada just a few days earlier. And to everyone's shock, this post was written by the prime suspect, Ager Hussein. He was still on the run but wanted to tell the internet what exactly happened on the night of the incident. However, what seemed like a desperate attempt to share his side of the story would later turn out to be a part of his plan to evade the consequences for his actions. Though, the events that led up to this started 15 months earlier in February of 2016, when 21-year-old Ager Hussein met 21-year-old Melinda Vasilier in Kitchener. The two quickly became infatuated with one another and began dating just weeks after their first encounter. However, while things went quite well for the first year or so, the two eventually started bickering and fighting with each other. This resulted in the two breaking up in April 2017 via text, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. Not long after their breakup, Ager attempted to break into Melinda's home through her patio, but was spotted by her friend Anna and her boyfriend. They also called the police on him, forcing him to leave Melinda alone. However, he kept texting her even after this incident, asking to meet her at least one last time.
Bro, it be like dudes like this that ruin it for other dudes. Like, bro, take your fucking sweet, soft ass on somewhere, you weirdo ass like, bro, the relationship is over. Bro, like, imagine being that down bad, even knowing that your girl moved on and is bouncing on somebody else. And you go up to the crib, trying to break into the crib while she, like, put this into perspective. I don't even be thinking, I think this has to just be a mental problem at this point, bro. Like, bro, what do you think that she's gonna do? Do you think that you, by breaking into her own property while knowing that her boyfriend is there and her sister and family's there, you think by doing all that and possibly going there and trying to fight the boyfriend and probably trying to attempt to beat him up or whatever the outcome is, you think that she's just gonna be like, oh, well, he must really love me. I'm gonna have to break up with the current guy right now and then have to just go in. Bro, it's over. It's over, bro. Like, let her go. And that goes for any of you guys, other dudes out there, bro. If she broke up with you already, stop texting her, bro. Stop stalking her IG stories, bro. Stop looking at her Twitter, bro. Stop looking at her Snapchat. Stop trying to hope that she's typing out subliminal rap lyrics, thinking that she wants you back. Bro, the relationship is done. Let it go, bro. This is just down bad.
She eventually agreed and invited him to her home, hoping to talk things through and end the relationship on respectful terms. They decided to meet.
Like, I'm going to be the judge looking at the outside in. Just by Buddy body language, you can tell that this is his first, like, bad shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, I don't know what's going to happen to, you know, with the results on later or whatever. But you could just tell, like, bro, for a fact, this is definitely his first baddie. Like, without a doubt.
On the night of April 27th, but when the time came, Ager didn't show up. Melinda had asked her friend and sister to stay with her at home while Ager was visiting. However, since Ager was a no-show, she gave them the go-ahead to carry on with their night, and the two left. They returned shortly after midnight, and to their surprise, discovered that Ager had shown up while they were gone and was now in Melinda's room with her. The girls confirmed Melinda's safety before heading off again to get food. This trip took barely 30 minutes, but by the time they came back, things had somehow spiraled into a complete nightmare. The apartment was in complete disarray, and there was no sign of Ager anywhere. And as they stepped further into the apartment, they found Melinda lying face down on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood, with her body covered in dozens of wounds. They rushed in to check on her, but tragically, it was already too late.
Unfortunately.
Melinda had no pulse.
R.I.P. to Melinda, man, and prayers to her family. You just tell straight up, even from the outside looking in, bro, she was just trying her best to just, like, be reasonable and just try to, like, just make, at least peace with the situation. I guarantee you, this weirdo-ass dude, her ex-boyfriend, when he came over, you know what I'm saying? He started digging deep in the conversation. He probably found out that she's smashing the dude that she's currently with right now, and he crashed out, bro. That's the only logic reason to why he crashed out. And she was, and it also was also planned she would never get back.
After composing themselves, they contacted the police and told them everything they knew, sparking a nationwide manhunt for Ager. However, despite days of searching, the investigators were unable to find anything about his current whereabouts. That is until a post from Ager himself popped up on Reddit explaining everything that happened from his perspective. He opened his monologue by going over the history of his and Melinda's relationship, how they were perfect together, and that he was even planning on proposing to her before everything fell apart. After spending a bit more time going over the timeline of the relationship, he moved on to talking about the day of the incident. And according to him, this is what happened after Melinda's friend and sister checked up on them. We continued to talk and finally decided it was worth it to try one more time. Anna and her other friend left the house to grab food. We both let everything out and our relationship was back on track. As I'm getting ready to leave, she asked me if I had done anything with any other girls while we were on a break, or any time we were on a break. I told her we needed to be honest and said yes and told her about it. She started freaking out, wouldn't say a word, just kept slapping me with tears in her eyes. Slaps turned into hits. I told her I was sorry, but if she didn't stop, I'd do something back. She didn't stop. I then stupidly pushed her, harder than I expected. She fell against the sink. This was the first time I ever did something.
Man, this isn't no cartoon, bro. You lying, bro. That's not all you did. There's no way.
Violent towards her. I told her I was sorry. She said, leave now. I began saying sorry even more and asked if I could get a hug. She was still crying. I go up to her to try and give her a hug. Almost out of nowhere, she grabs a knife by the sink. Initially, I thought she was just going to hold it to try and tell me to leave. She doesn't. She comes at me full force, aiming towards my face. I tell her to stop. She doesn't. I tried grabbing the knife, but ended up cutting my hands. After a few cuts, I lost it. I freaked out. I was scared and in a state of shock. Never in 100 years did I think she would use a knife against me. Out of shock and fear, I grab one. I hit her with it, almost blindly, a few times. I didn't know what happened. I was confused, shocked, and scared. I had no intentions of that happening. When I left, I honestly thought she just passed out. Then I looked at the blood and started freaking out and just ran. I didn't know for sure she had died until the next day. I honestly had no intention of ever doing that to her. I was protecting myself.
This is rough right here, man, because it's like, now that he explained it more in the paragraph, it isn't impossible for something like that to happen. I thought it was just something where he pushed he pushed her head into the sink, and then she just fell on the ground and just like that was it. Are you guys buying this story? I mean, like, here's my thing about it. Now, obviously, he could have been scared and just ran off and stuff like that. He could be making it up at the same time, too. We're not going to sit up there and be gullible, of course, but if it's self-defense, why did you, like, feel like you need to flee? But what is y'all calling this, man? Cat? Telling the truth?
From there, he went on to talk about the amount of regret and sadness he was feeling for what happened to Melinda. He also expressed his shock over the news calling this a targeted attack. Now, on their own, these look like the words of a man desperately trying to clear his name after an accident, when in reality, every word in this post was carefully selected by Ager to make himself look as innocent as possible. For instance, he claimed that Melinda often slapped and hit him near the beginning of his story, so that it doesn't seem suspicious when he mentions it later. When, according to people who knew her, Melinda was extremely sweet and had no violent tendencies. Ager also downplayed the break-in attempt.
I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna be fair to step in. Now, we're on nobody's side right here. This is stuff like this, we're always like just neutral type-ish. Unless it's like some weirdo activity, that's a different story. Which there is some weirdo activity going in. Buddy was already stalking, forced his way in the home, trying to break into the home and stuff like that. That they were saying. Now, there be sometimes friends of like girls that always would claim like they're really sweet, but they haven't seen them 100% of the time. But that doesn't also mean that Buddy is also innocent as well. So it's like, how are you guys taking it on this
claiming
part?
he merely
Y'all
visited
think?
her house to talk, and even left out the part about Melinda getting a restraining order against him following that incident. He also mentioned that he swung his knife just a few times in self-defense, when in reality, autopsy results showed a staggering 47 different wounds on her body.
What?
Luckily, by this point, the police knew that he
Yeah,
crossed
so
the
this
border.
story's cap then. Everything that this Adrian dude was saying is cap. Bro, 47 times is not self-defense at that point, bro. Like, bro, you was ready to, like, you know what I'm saying, murk her, bro. Like, you was ready to, like, have her up out of there, bro. I could see if it was 3 or 4 times, then maybe you would have some case of self-defense. And let's say, hypothetically, that she did everything that you said. I hope you know that that's not even self-defense. Judges don't look at it like, oh, well, you couldn't have handled it a little bit better. This is manslaughter, buddy. Like, bro, this definitely not self-defense. 47 times, bro. Like, you have to think about it, especially with a knife, bro. 47 times? Like, you're talking about boom, boom. Like, bro, nah, man.
A few hours later,
Come
and
on,
was now
man.
hiding in the U.S. And while it did take them a few weeks to pinpoint his location, they were eventually able to arrest and charge him with the murder of his once girlfriend.
Wow.
Further investigation also revealed other twisted methods he tried to seem more innocent, like sending a message to Melinda saying, "Nice seeing you tonight. Glad we worked things out. Anyways, see you soon."
this guy's crazy.
Hours after committing the crime. He stood trial on October 2023, where the jury concluded his
Ladies, like, this goes out to my FTC sisters, man. Like, y'all gotta motherfucking make sure y'all doing y'all research with these dudes. Y'all be, like, you know what I'm saying, laying down with. Like, I even hate to sound a little messed up about it, but, bro, y'all gonna have to start, especially, bro, if you know you pretty, you know what I'm saying, you know you just her, like, dog, you have to do the research on these dudes. Like, start doing research on these dudes and asking who their exes is. You know what I'm saying? Start seeing how their exes look. Like, deadass, like, start seeing how their exes look. And let's say if they had like 4 or 5 relationships, and at least if one of those girls ain't at least a 7 and up compared to you, that's to tell you everything you need to know. Because as soon as a relationship ends, the relationship is not over until he says it's over. And remember, I told you that. Start doing your research on the exes that they did, and it even is vice versa for the dudes as well. Now, it's a lot more, you know, it applies more, I feel like, what I'm talking about towards the woman, because women are a lot more vulnerable and a lot easier able to, like, you know, fall into situations and scenarios like this. But nonetheless, you need to start doing your research and your background checks. Start seeing, just like how these jobs, when they interview you, they want to know what your experience, your work experience is like. Look at their ex experience. Look at their pretty girl experience. Look at who the type of chicks that, you know what I'm saying, like, okay, like from ground everything up. Seriously, man.
motive
Like-
boiled down to, if I can't have you, no one can.
Like, that's the word I was literally looking for right there. If, for you FTC sisters out there, if you fall into a type of dude and they know that that's their first pretty girl, they're on some type of timing where as soon as the relationship ends, if nobody can't have you, then if I can have you, then nobody will. You know what I'm saying?
He was given a life
trying to tell
sentence with the possibility of
Life
parole
sentence.
after 16 years.
you. Justice served.
On June 7, 2019, a throwaway account made a post on the Confession subreddit claiming to be responsible for the deaths of several people. The post opened with the OP talking about his life goal 4 years ago, how he didn't get stuck in a 9-to-5 cycle. So he came up with a different business plan, selling substances. However, this really didn't work out as well as he'd hoped. He hated meeting people in person and was constantly afraid of someone finding out who he was and where he lived. But then he learned about a popular marketplace for illicit substances on the dark web and started using that to conduct business. Things were going well, and even upgraded from selling just 3 substances to shipping several much more potent options as well. They all went out. I didn't notice and kept doing my thing for a few days. After about 5 days, someone contacted me and told me their friend died from my I immediately called BS and went to check my order log and scale up how much I had of my left. Well, I had about 11 grams more than I should have. I still don't know how it could have happened. Immediately deactivated my vendor account. I didn't even need confirmation. I knew what happened. I knew I just killed several people. I sold the rest of my drugs, converted my Bitcoin to cash, and moved away. Didn't speak to anyone for weeks. Found a job in a restaurant, living in a city I always wanted to. I haven't touched drugs since that day. I haven't had anything to do with that life since then.
Damn, buddy said he's in a restaurant. Bro, I wonder how many people have those types of stories, bro. They just like they know that they done served somebody some wrongful, bad stash of stuff, and something ended up happening to them, bro. They just sitting up there living their life, just think they can just hit that restart button, bro.
However, the
Now,
OP
obviously, the people shouldn't have been taking, drugs are bad, stay above the influence type issue in the first place. But, man,
did the
cold
post by
world,
claiming
man.
that despite getting as far away from his old life as he possibly could, the guilt of being responsible for so many lost lives still weighs heavily on him. And that the only reason he confessed everything on Reddit was to finally get it off his chest, hoping it might bring him some sense of relief. Now, whether this actually helped him feel any better or not is completely unknown. This was his first and last post from this account, and he hasn't posted any updates since. As for if he was actually telling the truth, that much is uncertain. It's near impossible for me to track down any news articles about his unfortunate customers, given that over 100,000 people every year lose their lives from that same substance. That said, many users in the comments believe the story was genuine, and some even express sympathy for the OP's situation, though I doubt we'll get any concrete answer on this confession's legitimacy anytime soon.
Hey, man, a lot of sad stories in here, man. Make sure y'all staying above the influence, man. Make sure y'all doing y'all research on people, man, and watch your surroundings. Don't get too comfortable.